But what is love? Love is something that you do for the benefit of others. And therefore, loving is not getting yourself closer to God. Love is not making yourself happy. Love is not doing things that work to your own personal advantage. Those may be effects of loving, but they are not what love is. Love is something else. So we say, although love gets us closer to God, what is love? If love makes you happy, great, but what is love? Love is the honest attempt that people make to make others happy. Love is the honest attempt that people make to be concerned about the welfare of others, and specifically not their own benefit. And therefore, we need to see the contradiction in the self-interest aspects of love, because otherwise we will never have those interests met. Why? Because we will not be loving. And loving, according to all these thoughts, is in fact the means to get all those interests met. Therefore, if in fact we are not loving, then none of the benefits that we may conceive of that are the benefits of love will accrue to us personally. They might accrue to someone who was loving, but not us. Right? Therefore, if we are not loving, we will not get closer to God. We will not be happy. Right? We will simply be pursuing self-interests, and therefore we will be unhappy, and we will not be getting closer to God. Is anyone still with me?
Yeah.
So it's the paradox of the fact that yes, something is good for you, but when the thing is defined as love, then that's the only reason you can't really be doing it. Because if you do, you take away the love component of the love. And you're left essentially with an empty shell. Furthermore, it should be completely obvious and logical that if a person sets themselves up on the benefit side of the consideration of loving, that is to say, if I love, then I'll get this, it'll be good for me in this way, advance my personal evolution in this way, make me happy, I'll get this, 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 and this benefit. Then you really do have to ask yourself logically, what would happen in the instance in which there was an apparency that loving did not, in that particular instant in time, serve self-interest? In other words, if you've set it up in the beginning that the whole concept is love is what benefits me, right? Then what happens when something comes down the road that looks like it's not going to benefit you? Let's say you're in a relationship and love demands of you a certain sacrifice. You have to do something, let's say, that looks like it's going to unbenefit you or not benefit you, get you in trouble, create a problem for you, or an inconvenience of some kind, right? In that case, if you have already related to the idea that love is your benefit, and that love is that which works to your benefit, then you will automatically not do it. because of the fact that you have set it up that way. That if it doesn't work to your benefit, it is not consistent with your definition of love itself, which is that which works to your benefit. Right? So at that instant in time, anybody who had set up love as a matter of personal benefit would then stop doing or not do or refuse to do or withhold from doing that thing that presents an apparent inconvenience, an apparent loss, an apparent disadvantage of some kind to self. Right? You see how this is so? It follows logically from the first premise, which is self-interest. You cannot follow that premise very far and do anything except end up betraying people on that very same basis. Right? The very premise that we started out with is exactly why we're about to betray others. Therefore, it has been said, and I say it as often as I get an opportunity, a lover doesn't work in self-interest. That's not the focus. A lover works in other interests consistently. And let the self-interest accrue as it may, wherever they're chalking up brownie points, whatever they're doing for that. But when it comes to the moment-by-moment decisions that a lover has to make, a lover couldn't possibly be a lover if they were working on that basis of self-interest. They would simply be a selfish person making selfish decisions for selfish reasons. And they would have to evaluate every decision separately on that basis. It never ends, you see. And so it's very important just to realize what a lover really does, how it works. If love is about doing for the benefit of others, then you need to cling to that. Just as strongly as you would cling to, if love is for self-interest, I'll cling to that. Right? Cling to the principle. Cling to the root principle. You almost invariably find that virtually everything that is really loving tends to conflict with the program of self-interest in some way. Right? This is why a lot of people don't get too far with it. It doesn't take them long to figure out that there's that the whole thing doesn't work for self-interest worth the damn in any immediate, reasonable time frame that you could conceive of or look at. Right? And if that's not acceptable to us, then we immediately default out of the game. It's like saying, I want to play, I want to play, I want to play. And the guy says, okay, so you can play. And then you say, okay, so what's the game? Okay, the game is to take this rock and drop it on your head. And you go, what? You know that thing about me wanting to play? Never mind that. I don't think I want to do this. That's the first confront with the game. What am I, stupid? That guy starts asking the real questions, What do you think I am? And people go through this exactly with love. It's funny to think about this, but, it turns to tears when you actually realize, okay, that when it comes to love, that exact same confront happens and the exact same answer is given. What, are you crazy? What do you think, I'm stupid? You see? Get out. I don't want to play that game. I'm going to play another game. Is there another game where I get the whole thing and it's nice and stuff? Is there a game like that in any way you can recommend or some direction? Because I'd be very interested in such a game if there was such a game. Right? Yeah, real estate. Used car sales is good. They say there's a lot of money in computers now. Oh, I'll be going that way. Thank you very much. You know. There's one more in every minute that's smart enough, right, to figure out that love is not what they want to do. And not quite faithful enough to realize that it's okay to get your reward on the other side. That it's all right for it to be inconvenient for a while. It's okay for the thing to be a complete sacrifice. It's okay that a lover is nothing but a living sacrifice. It's okay. The person who can accept those terms can look at that square in the eye, not flinch, get the concept, and live on that basis, is ready for the game and can play the game elegantly and can derive all the promised, shit that they get for that, but they do it anyway. They're like these guys, like my father, great professor, great intellectual, got paid more and more and more and more the further they figured out how smart he was and how valuable he was. But he would always say, I would do this whether they paid me or not. Almost everybody who's really good at almost anything always says that, and they always feel that. And a lover feels that more than anybody. If it was about, that I get to go to hell, I'd do it. Because it's the right thing, and I love it. You see? And it doesn't matter. It's not about the money. It's not about the brownie points in heaven. It's not about the fact that it gets me something somehow, someday, sooner, or maybe later. That's the true lover. I told you the story about Mahuchna. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell again. There was a parade through an Indian town. Mahuchna, village idiot, saw the princess and fell in love. It was love at first sight. And he started sitting around singing her praises. And he became so punch-drunk and intoxicated with his rapturous love for the princess that he sang her praises all the time. And it gets back to the king. There's somebody out there that won't quit singing your daughter's name. And he doesn't want anything else, and he doesn't think about anything else. So the king says, my royal decree has to go out to the kingdom, send the crier, and say, the merchants have to give this guy whatever he wants. We have to keep this guy alive. He had sympathy for the fact that this guy had basically gone completely over the deep end due to being in love with his daughter. Right? So, a few scammers got a hold of the idea, and they started singing the praises, right? And then singing the praises, they'd go to the merchants and ask for the things they needed. Food, clothing, the things. And they got the things. After a while, it got back to the king. There was 20, 30, now 40, and 100 Mahuchnas. All claiming to be the Mahuchna, all singing all the time. All getting shit from the merchants for free on a subsidy kind of thing. Welfare system was established by the king, right? For Mahuchna, right? So they all took on a name and they all took on a behavior, right? But when it got up to a couple hundred, the king says, well, look, this won't work. Send out a crier, royal decree. All Mahuchnas, anybody who's singing his daughter's praises, are going to be beheaded at the first light. Okay? So fine. So everybody got the message. Crack of dawn. There's one guy singing the praises. Huh? One guy sitting there just as before. Huh? So that was it. So the guy became the Mahuchna. The guy was recognized. The guy was validated. Right? That's the only Mahuchna there is. The one who doesn't care about the cost, what the cost is. That's the only lover in the book There's nobody else competing. You see? This is a weird job. You have to like it. It has to be okay with you when you figure out that if you're going to be a living sacrifice, then the answer is self-interest is not going to be a determinant of your behavior patterns. And you are going to have to look very carefully at it. Right? So first off, when you think about the benefit of others, you need to think very deeply about it. And if you think deeply about it, then you will realize that many of the things that you do that will truly benefit others in a deep way, in a meaningful way, in a real way, are going to cause you to have to do things that are going to make you unpopular with those people. Not everything that you do for the benefit of an ego is going to give you any kind of brownie point with them. You might like get a knuckle sandwich, but you're not going to get a brownie point. You know, you can, you know, maybe in some way, in other ways, but still, you're going to have to realize on a transaction by transaction basis, certainly, at least. Okay, we can look at it and say, for sure, in the immediate term, not, you know, you know. And so you have to be willing to proceed on that basis. You know, if that's not it, you're out. Is there another game? All right? Well, there's no other game called love. There's no game that's based on self-interest or that runs on the basis of self-interest that is love. That game is the one where you have to be on the firing line, you have to take the hit, you have to do the kinds of things that are not collusive, that are going to get you in trouble with people that you are serving. At times. So think very deeply about benefiting others and what it would take for their spiritual welfare over time. And you are thinking in the right direction about love. And then if you are still willing to do that, then you are in fact loving. Right? I'm not trying to paint a picture that it's all bad news about loving. A lot of it is sweet, wonderful, and juicy and fun. But there is a whole bunch that comes back to you that would separate the men from the boys, women from the girls very quickly. And this is what I'm referring to. So that's an important part, even though it's not the whole part. Right? And then think very deeply about corner cutting. Think very deeply about the fact that when you don't do something that would be loving, when you don't do something that would serve the interests of the beloved, you have to ask yourself very deeply, why did I not do it? And if, as you, in your integrity and in your wisdom and in your care, you go through your own motive or your own logic, and you find at the root that the reason was self-interest, self-protection, whatever, then you realize at that moment that you are not coming from a loving place. And on that basis, you can change what you're doing. You can see that this does not match the blueprint. This refusal, this withholding, this decision is not coming from love. It is coming from self-interest, in fact. A lover would always be interested in that consideration, knowing full well what the tendencies are of self-interest, knowing full well how self-interest certainly does not tend to serve people very much, right? And they are interested in the others after all. And therefore, they have to keep computing their actions from that standpoint. Is this or is this not a decision that's going to benefit that guy? Right? Is this or is this not a decision that works for them? It isn't about me. It is about them. What could I do, should I do, that would benefit them most? In what way could I use my mechanism huh? Emotion, feeling, huh? Body, mind, huh? To benefit them, right? That would be the question that you would constantly be asking, right? And if you were interested in that question, then surely the still small voice has answers for you, all kinds of answers, all the time, you know. But you got to watch your pen on your editing side. What are you gonna rule out of about that? And why? Why did I not do it? Right? Think deeply about the cut corners.